yourself a cup of Who Gives a It's time for the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff with your hosts Tim S. Turner and Michael J. Crawford. Today, Tim and Mike complete their journey through time as they talk about movies from 2011 through, well, I guess today.
Hey, good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff. Tonight's special edition show dedicated to Uncle Drewy.
What the hell is that?
How you doing today, Tim?
First, I think it's Cousin Drewy.
What the hell is an Uncle Drewy?
He looks like an Uncle Drewy. He looks like that uncle that's sitting in the corner just drinking his life away, and that everybody just kind of ignores.
Uncle Dewey?
Drewy.
I can't find anything about Uncle Drewy. What is an Uncle Drewy? I put that in, and an African American fellow pops up.
I did not know that there were African American Canadians.
I guess he has a white beard and everything.
Yeah.
He looks
Uncle
very stern.
Drewy is the official name of Firefly Forever. That's his call sign. That's his thing. He's Uncle Drewy.
Well, that just clears everything up.
Yes.
It's Cousin Drewy.
I know, but I like Uncle Drewy better. I'm sorry. Hey, regardless of Uncle, and Canada is, I can't remember what part of Canada are you from again, Firefly. Now, of course, we'll wait a minute for him to actually respond so we can see.
Because that's good programming.
While we wait for that response, we have a show jam-packed full of stuff. James, how are you doing tonight?
I'm living the dream, buddy. I'm living the dream.
Yeah, you need to come up with something else to say. You say that every week.
I do, because I'm living the dream. I love it.
That's right. He is from Toronto, which, as people know, Toronto is kind of like the Mississippi of Canada. So him being Uncle Drew and Cousin Drew, basically the same thing. Because
Canada doesn't even have parts. Do they even identify as different parts and stuff like that? I mean,
well, most of the country just looks down on Toronto.
It's not even a real country anyway.
Yeah. I mean, they got monopoly money and they export, maple syrup and snow. So who cares?
Yeah. Isn't their Prime Minister Alan Thicke or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, this just opens up more and more questions.
Our video cut out, Tim, just so you know.
That's probably because of Canada, right there.
Yeah, I think the Canadians had something to do with their sabotaging our video feed. So we'll get that back up, but we got a few things to talk about, and so yes, we're being a little silly, but we also actually do have some genuine things to talk about today. So let's start out with what I think is one of the stupidest trends in Hollywood marketing right now, which is that we now have a teaser for the release of a teaser, which is the second teaser for Rogue One. So, for those of you who have not seen it, it's a 15-second teaser for the teaser that shows you, a new ship that we haven't seen before, and a couple of robots. And hey, guess what? New trailer's coming out, but it's a teaser trailer, so it's like, so just release the frickin' trailer. I mean, is it just me, or is this just stupid?
But then, how will we know when the trailer's out without the teaser for the trailer?
They release the you know what? Nobody has a problem. When the studios release trailers, people watch them, and so. But
they won't know when the trailer is without the trailer to the trailer.
I feel like I'm co-hosting with Claude Rains. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why my video.
What the hell is who the hell is Claude? Okay, hold on. Now I got to Google Claude Rains.
Oh my God, he was the original Invisible Man.
Oh my God, he's from the 1930s. How, as a millennial, not know that?
I could have said Robert Griffin.
Anyway, can we get back on topic?
I'm more interested in talking about how old
Claude Rains
Tim is. That's why people come here for the 1930s references. That's why we have such a big
on my
audience.
side. She's
Yeah, I
like,
know that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm sure Miss Tracek is within my
Tracek?
age.
Tracy K.
Yeah,
Miss Tracek. That's the way her name is written.
Oh,
Tracy K. It's Miss Tracy K. If you look at the username, it's clearly Miss Tracy K.
Okay.
Capital M, capital T, capital K. It's pretty obvious what her username is. But
Okay.
this is why America loves this show.
Yeah, this is why we have such a high audience right here.
what? Because one of our hosts doesn't understand who.
Yeah,
Quantum
that's
Fiends is.
exactly
That's the
what
problem.
it's exactly that.
Anyway,
Had nothing to do with
so Tim, what did you think of the 15-second teaser for the 30-second teaser? That's the second teaser for Rogue One. That so far for me is completely underwhelming.
I can try to play it if you want me to. I mean, it's going to be full on. It's not edited.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it's only 15 seconds long. If you even click, did you put the link in the description?
The link is in the description, yeah. Or will be.
Then they can look at it at their leisure. It's 15 frickin' seconds. It shows a spaceship and a couple of robots. That's it. There is no big reveal, other than if you like the spaceships.
Well, and when the trailer come out, so.
Well, so what? But Tim, that's why let's get this discussion.
Sorry, what?
So what are your thoughts on this 15-second teaser for a 30-second teaser for a movie that's coming out this winter?
Well, I wish I could answer with a teaser for my answer.
Yeah, the teaser for my answer is pho.
Coming soon. I think coming this Christmas. Honestly, what can you say? It's literally a series of brief images, some of which we've actually already seen.
Yeah.
Like, with the AT-ATs. Mm-hmm. Sure, it's an interesting montage of images.
And they do the little da 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 at the
They
end.
did that in the last one.
Yes, but this time they did it for the teaser to the trailer.
No, it's a teaser for the teaser.
Don't even start.
So are you saying you liked it, James?
I'm saying
And I know you're the fanboy of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm saying I neither liked nor disliked it. I think that teasers for trailers are stupid, but they've been doing them like forever, so it's whatever.
Well, it's really been more of a recent phenomenon. So it's the Comic-Con thing. I don't know. I personally, I think it's, I find it nothing but annoying. If you're going to drop a trailer, drop a frickin' trailer. If you're going to drop a teaser, drop a frickin' teaser. I don't like marketing for the marketing. I think that's just stupid. Pretty soon we're going to have hey, coming next Christmas will be a special sneak peek that we will eventually release a teaser for a trailer, eventually releasing a trailer for a film. Stay tuned.
Well, to be fair, at least it was slightly better than the what was that one that we had a trailer for where it was literally the exact same trailer as we had seen before, and they tried to make it like it was something new.
The Flash?
We talked about last week.
Was it The Flash?
Oh no, Legends of Tomorrow, where it was it's literally everything from last year. There was nothing new. So you have no images for us for your new season that you should have already started filming?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get me, I mean, because the thing about, because so far what they've shown of Rogue One, I am not impressed in the slightest. And if it wasn't for the fact that we do this show and I love talking about movies, I probably wouldn't bother going to see it. At least not from what they've released so far. That being said, if their goal with these trailers is to get me in the seat, then don't just show me, hey guys, guess what? We're going to release a trailer. Like, your movie is so freaking awesome that I'm just going to, get all excited about the fact that you're going to release a trailer. Now, I know there are Star Wars fanboys out there, James being one of them, that are going to be excited just on the news that a trailer is coming. And and I'll fully admit, I'd be the same way if we were talking about, if they were finally going to give us a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, or they were going to give us a trailer for the next Star Trek film, even though the last Star Trek film just broke my heart. But But the point is that, you know, there are certain franchises that, yes, you have a fan base that's going to be excited about the news of an upcoming trailer. But the general public, you know, that's not going to get them excited. That's, you know, there's no point. You know, it's show them something to get excited about.
Yes.
Speaking of things to get excited about, let's talk about the non-Star Trek Trek, which, given that the last official Star Trek Trek was like complete crap, the non-Star Trek Trek actually looks like it will probably be better than the official Star Trek Trek that had a $150 million budget. So why am I calling a non-Star Trek Trek? Well, James, fill us in a little bit about Renegades, the Requiem, the series.
Oh, okay, I didn't know what the hell you were talking about for a second. Tell you what, I'm going to play
non-Star Trek Trek. Right?
I'm going to play this fancy trailer for everybody.
All right.
All right,
Fancy.
It's all fancy and stuff. All right, here we go. So what's interesting about this is it first started out, like was said, as Star Trek Renegades, and it was wildly successful, and they started raising money for the next movie. I think it's either the third or fourth. Maybe it was I don't know. I think this is the third one. Anyway, they started raising money for it, raised a ton of money. Then on the first day that they started doing actual, started. I don't want to say camera work, but they started doing
Principal
the movie
photography.
Yes, there you go. That's my boy. That's why you're on the show right there. Stuff like that. So when they started, the guidelines came out. So they decided to scrap the Star Trek part, and of course you can obviously tell where they purchased and how it was geared towards Star Trek. Star Trek. So
are you a Trekkie?
I am a Trekkie. I am a Trekkie. So, Michael, would you like to talk about the word Trek versus Trek, or would you like to get into this?
Well,
what do you think? What do you think the people watching the show would be more interested
in? It is painful to me every time you say Star Trek.
Okay. So on this, it is no longer Star Trek. What is going on is they are now just Renegades, their own personal sci-fi thing. And sci-fi movie, and it'll be interesting to see. They still have a ton of support, so it's kind of like you were saying beforehand when we were having that conversation. They need to do their own sci-fi, their own series, and they still have the support base that they had beforehand, which was surprising to me. Because they wanted, I believe it looked like, well, I don't know how much it was. I know they have 130% of their goal of what they were trying to raise, and they still are raising money for it. So I thought it was amazing. It's over $100,000 that they've raised.
Well, and here's the thing. And by the way, I am not opposed to what they're doing here. I mean, yes, unfortunately, much of what we see is painfully, obviously refitted Star Trek uniforms, and so they just like, oh, let's change the rank pin to go the other way, and so that we can say it's our own thing. I would rather it be more original. And like the hero ship that they show looks like it's definitely a Federation inspired design. However, every single frame of this 1 minute teaser that they've released on it looks better than what we've seen on the upcoming Star Trek series that CBS is producing. That with that clunky Tinker Toy looking ship that they show in that teaser that CBS released. This looks interesting. I mean, we don't know everything about it. The fact that they have some Star Trek alum in the cast is probably going to be a little distracting. Obviously Nichelle Nicole and Walter Koenig are featured prominently in this trailer. and I think it's cool that they're in it. But I'm sure that originally their characters were an elderly Uhura and Chekhov, but now they're going to have to kind of change whatever their characters are.
Well, yeah, it was going to be his last time on. I honestly don't hear the difference between the way you and I are saying it. It was going to be his last time as a part of that series, the Star Trek.
Yeah.
Trek.
With an
Star
E, yes.
Trek. Trek is the same thing. It's the same way of saying it. Star Trek.
E key.
That was being touted as his last time in the Star Trek universe. So I think it's his last time doing movies, is what they're saying. So that's kind of cool too, I thought.
Well, and I think it looks good. I mean, we'll see how good the acting is and stuff when it comes out. But it looks, that is an effective teaser trailer, folks. That is a teaser trailer. That actually has me interested in seeing it. Even if that were actually a film coming out this fall, I would go to the theater to see it. It looks more interesting than what we saw of Rogue One. Sure, the Rogue One visuals look a little more polished, but, does it look like one is $150 million production and the other is $150,000 production? No. It looks like you have a $150 million production and maybe a $75 million production. They did an excellent job. And of course, with these types of productions, it's because it's a true passion project. The people behind this are not just doing it as part of their business. They're doing it because this is what they love. Well, and they want to pay homage to a sci-fi franchise that they truly, truly love. And that's fine. If you do it in your own original way, I think that's cool, because there's nothing that CBS or Paramount can do to stop them at this point.
Well, the interesting thing is they did before they decided to go their own way, when it was still part of the Star Trek universe. They did approach CBS and asked if they wanted to partner up and do a pilot for them versus having it as a fan film.
Right.
And showed them footage like this, which is kind of interesting. CBS said, "No, you know what? We'll do it ourselves." And then we got the way Discovery.
Go, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of, real quick before we move on, there was one other trailer that came out that Tim and James don't want to give a crap about, and I just want to say one quick thing about. And that is, there's a new trailer for Resident Evil, The Final Chapter, which is coming out, I guess, this winter. And, if you like the Resident Evil movies, you'll go see it. If you don't, you probably won't. And that's all that really is about that. All I would say is that Resident Evil is to horror what Star Wars is to science fiction.
Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. Now we're going to make her Jesus because we've made her everything else. Samurai, ninja, Jedi. Now she's the female
but Resident
Jesus.
Evil is, it started out as a horror concept, and it's really more of an action sci-fi type thing, just like Star Wars is a sci-fi concept that's really just fantasy in disguise as sci-fi. And that's a good thing if it works. And with Resident Evil, I think the first one worked. The rest of them I'm not a big fan of, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I think what happened to the movies is what happened to the games too. Now the games are just basically third-person shooters, when it was originally horror as well. So I think they both went that way, unfortunately.
Well, that's the problem is that when you're doing it for, when you have millions of dollars on the line, you have to do whatever is going to appeal to the widest audience.
The widest?
Yes. So
that kind of leads into the next part of what we were going to talk about. Michael getting all misogynist.
Speaking of appealing to a wide audience, nothing screams appeal across the board like having a new Star Trek series with a ship that looks like it was designed by a special needs children's class.
Oh, jeez.
And then saying, how can we really turn on the cues to get people to watch this? I know, let's make the first little bit of news that, hey, we got a female captain, because everybody loved Janeway.
Are you saying they didn't like Janeway because she was female?
I'm saying that Star Trek has a horrible modern Trek in its attempt to be PC has done a horrible job with it. Modern Trek, and I know you like SF Debris and stuff, and he's absolutely right. When Trek deals with serious, mature adult issues, they act like they're 12-year-olds writing. Like when they talk about sex or anything like that, it's all kind of stuff.
I disagree. I think Janeway was one of the most epic villains that the Star Trek universe had ever encountered.
Well, yeah, she was willing to wipe out entire civilizations at a whim.
I mean, she was just
That's actually not a joke, Tim. She does do that during the show. She completely annihilates civilizations, and her excuse is that's what the Prime Directive says.
Unless the Prime Directive is inconvenient, then she suspends it.
Right.
That.
Yeah, as a non-Star Trek fan, I think I've seen one episode of that show.
Yeah, Voyager is horrid.
That's what I felt when I watched it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that Firefly is talking about Captain Archer because he was kind of ineffectual, but Archer on Star Trek Enterprise was at least
male.
Oh no. It's not the fact that because Janeway being female wasn't really the issue. The problem with Janeway is she's one of the most horribly written characters in all of Trek because you had this conflict between the writers that wrote for Voyager. In one episode, they'll make Janeway a damsel in distress. In the next episode, they'll try to make her fall into a love story, and then in the next episode they'll try to make her into this badass that doesn't need no man, and it's like there's no consistency with her character. She could have been an interesting character. There's nothing that would have stopped that from happening, and Tim and I have talked about the fact that you can have really good, strong female lead characters, but you have to take them seriously. You have to write them well. And the writing on Voyager was a complete farce. It was horrid from beginning to end of that series. Now with Enterprise, what I was going to say is Archer was at least a little more consistent as a character. Yes, he was kind of the biggest pussy of all the Star Trek captains, but he at least was consistently a overly cautious kind of wimpy character from beginning to end. And the show developed. The show evolved. By season 3, they actually started getting a foothold. And if season 3 had been season 1, I think that Enterprise would have lasted 7 years and done well.
Berman wouldn't have allowed that to happen. He hated everything Star Trek.
But yes.
Star Trek,
well, Rick Berman is a dick.
He hated
and Voyager did have its ups. The Doctor was definitely interesting. I actually liked the character of Tuvok, but it was the writing on that show was so horrifically bad, so inconsistent, and just so schlocky from beginning to end that it was hard to get behind that show. Of all the modern Star Trek shows, the only one that really had stellar writing was Deep Space Nine. And
it took them a couple seasons. It seems like Star Trek takes a couple of seasons
to get into it. Sure.
It seems like it takes them a couple because season 1, even season 2, DS9, and that's my favorite series of all of them. I think was weak, but I think they started getting their own season 3 and beyond.
Well, and I think one of the big turning points, and it's not just because the Dominion were an effective villain, but in the episode titled "The Jem'Hadar," which was the first introduction of that race. It's funny, I rewatched that episode just a few days ago because I've been going back and watching some old stuff. And that episode to me is a real turning point for that series because not just Sisko's character, because Sisko's character was, I think that Avery Brooks did an excellent job with Sisko from day one. But the rest of the supporting cast, they had to find their way. They had to find their footing. And this episode is where Quark went from being the stupid comic relief Ferengi to a serious character. Yes, he was still used as comic relief, but he had depth. And and you probably remember this, but in that particular episode was when they were trapped and there was a lock that needed to be picked, and so Cisco went over to Quark and said, "Hey, you're a Ferengi, pick this lock." And Quark went on this tirade about, "Oh yeah, Quark, pick a lock because you think just because I'm a Ferengi that I can pick a lock. Well, let me tell you something. You don't like me because I'm a reflection of some of the things you'd like to forget about your own past. But let me tell you something. We've never had some of the crap you have in your past. We never had slavery. We never had genocide. We never did world wars on, Farengar, or whatever the name of their planet is. We're better than you." And so they created in that one little tirade of Quark the depth to show that, yes, they're a bunch of greedy capitalists, but at the same time, they're not just evil because they're greedy capitalists. And then that at the end, typical Quark goes, "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lock to pick." And then he goes and picks the lock. But it was that moment created a level of depth on that show that we hadn't seen in Trek. And I think that that's really what started Deep Space Nine onto this really interesting path that really, I think, peaked around season 4 or 5. But unfortunately, after Deep Space Nine, they just said, "Hey, let's just see how stupid we can make it."
Well, an interesting thing, and you really wouldn't. They had little nuances as well. That you wouldn't pick up unless you just really knew the series. But the Jem'Hadar was when the Dominion really came out and they were really introduced. But as they interacted with other species in the other quadrant, they did. The Dominion was brought up ever so often, like as just and I thought that was really cool. It was just as a passing thing. They would say, "Oh, we can't do this because the Dominion has regulations."
Renegades actually did have Quark negotiate a deal with the Dominion in like season 1.
Right. I mean, but I mean, the Dominion was just as a they were just brought up every so often, and then they kind of tied in to who they were. I just thought that was interesting.
We'd heard about the Dominion, but we didn't realize they were a military dictatorship until later.
Yeah, or how badass they were.
That's not really the point of all this. The point of this is that okay, the Tinker Toy new starship has a female captain, and we're all supposed to be excited because I guess a big feminist triumph or something. But I don't care what the sex of the captain is. I don't care what the race of the captain is. I don't even care what the sexual preference of the captain is. Tell me something about what the show is really about. Because that doesn't tell me anything. Okay, it's got a stupid looking ship and the captain's a chick. That's all I know. That doesn't get me excited. You can get me excited by telling me something about what is the overall overarching concept of this show, which they have not said anything about. So to me, that's a big piece of non-news, except they're trying to get feminists excited. Speaking of excited feminists, Tim.
Yeah.
I understand that Ghostbusters lost over $70 million, and thus they're doing an animated series so that all the kids that, because the problem with Ghostbusters, I think, was it was too mature, because the kids love third wave feminism, wouldn't you say?
There's lots of kids in school wearing the t-shirts, I hate men.
Right.
Well, I know as I'm dropping my kids off at kindergarten, I'm hearing about that queef joke that was all the rage.
Right, and because you see, the problem is that we don't have enough third wave feminism in children's programming, and so what we're doing, of course, a new Ghostbusters animated series based on the completely failed Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, they think that the studio is gonna have to eat about $70 million.
Of a film, but that's good enough to make a cartoon, I guess.
But they're bringing back Zool in the second movie. That'll never come up.
That'll never happen. Yeah.
Well, I would not be surprised if the second movie does happen. To be honest.
Well, it said that it's unlikely in the article that we brought up.
Yeah, but I still wouldn't be surprised if the studio greenlights it.
I disagree. They're a corporation, and as much as they like that, they hate losing money. So
no, but this would be a lost leader. This would be them saying, "Look how progressive we are," and so they would slash the budget of Ghostbusters too.
It would have to, because as we saw, one of the biggest reasons that this movie is a failure financially is because it won't be shown in China, which is the second biggest market in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything that has to do with the depiction of ghosts, they won't do it. They won't allow it. So they just can't pull it off financially unless they really pare it down.
Yeah, so I think what they could do if they reduce the budget to say 40-50 million, because those ghost effects, I mean, let's face it, they're not hard to pull off. I mean, I could do most of those effects, and the most of the cast is Saturday Night Live alumni. Basically, the only person there that's worth a hefty paycheck is Chris Hemsworth.
The only male
He'd
in it?
probably just do it for kids.
So you're saying the only male in there is the one that's
the male's worth of the money.
Yeah.
So just so we can better understand.
No, I'll take that back. Melissa McCarthy is a little bit, not even Kristen Wiig, because Kristen Wiig, while she's been very popular on Saturday Night Live, there's a big difference between being a character actor on Saturday Night Live and being a movie star.
So just to confirm, you hated Voyager, which had a female lead. You don't think Discovery is going to be that good because a female lead doesn't tell you that much. And Chris Hemsworth is the only one worth paying anything in the...
I'm saying Chris Hemsworth is the only person in the regular cast of that film that is an A-lister.
Because of the penis that he has? Or?
No, because of the fact that he's Chris Hemsworth, because he's a successful movie star as opposed to a sketch actor from a comedy series. And I'm sorry, I mean, cause, and the thing is it's not about who I like or didn't like. I thought Chris Hemsworth was horrible in Ghostbusters. In fact, I thought all of them were pretty much horrible except for Leslie Jones, who's probably the least paid of all of them. But I think she had the best performance and the best character. But I've seen, I mean, Kristen Wiig, I love her on Saturday Night Live. Melissa McCarthy, I've actually really liked a couple of her films. And Katie McKinnon, she's hilarious on Saturday Night Live. And so, it's not that I don't like these actresses, but none of them, except for Melissa McCarthy, and even that's kind of limited, are big Hollywood success stories. Melissa McCarthy has made a couple of successful comedies, but is not really taken seriously as an actor. I think that Chris Hemsworth is the only A-lister in the regular cast, and you could always get rid of him if you wanted to, and they could just say, "Oh, he forgot to come into work one day," because that would be believable with his character.
Or forgot to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. Ever since that time, he forgot to breathe, and then you can make a little joke about that. And so, speaking of something that has no breath of life in it, let's talk a little bit about the DC Cinematic Universe and where it's going, and to kind of compare to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and where if we go back in time. We now have 3 films in the DC Cinematic Universe proper. No television series, nothing like that. We only have 3 films at this point, which are Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Suicide Squad. Now, the first 3 films, are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was not their 3 strongest films.
No,
but let's compare. I mean, the first 3 films in Marvel Cinematic Universe, and there were no TV shows or anything like that back then either, were Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2. And many people think that Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk are the 2 worst films in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I would disagree with some of that, but I mean, of course, the thing is that The Incredible Hulk on Rotten Tomatoes is the second lowest rated film in the cinematic universe at 67%. The only Marvel film that did worse than that was Thor: The Dark World, did 66%.
a lot of people hate that, and I actually enjoyed it.
The Dark World, I did too.
Yeah.
I think it's a little underrated, to be honest. I think it should have probably been more along lines with their average scores. Because if we look at the cinematic universe in general, the MCU I'm talking about here, we have scores. These are all Rotten Tomatoes scores of Iron Man 94, Incredible Hulk 67, Iron Man 2 72, Thor 77, Captain America, The First Avenger 80, The Avengers 92, Iron Man 3 79, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually rated there at 93, Thor The Dark World 66, Captain America The Winter Soldier 89, Guardians of the Galaxy 91, Agent Carter is rated at 87, Daredevil at 86, Age of Ultron 75, Ant-Man 81, Jessica Jones at 93, and Civil War at 90. Which is interesting. It means Jessica Jones is the it's the second highest rated thing behind Iron Man, which got a 94. But the consistent thing here is that if you average out the Marvel films, you're looking at 80s and 90s for their scores. Now, the first three films in the DC Cinematic Universe, according to Rotten Tomatoes, Man of Steel 55, and by the way, that is the highest rated film in the DC Universe. Yeah. Batman v Superman 27, Suicide Squad 26.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. And I know I've defended these, these three films, on our reviews. I've actually enjoyed them. Now, part of that I know is my own personal bias because I love comic book films in general. But DC, it seems like in their huge rush to try and catch up with Marvel, they need to stop and focus on some quality time here. They need to, and I don't know that they need a reboot. I know some people are calling for that. What do you think, James? Do you think that it's too late to get this universe off to a good start, or do you think that they can turn this around?
I don't know. I think their biggest mistake is if you're not going to do it like MCU did, which is build individual characters and then bring them together. I would have, and even then, they probably should have done this like the comic books do, and said something like, "This is a complete reboot. These are original characters of their own, and not necessarily tie them in," because that's a lot of the issues people are having. I think they'll eventually turn it around. If they keep dumping money into it and they keep doing it, eventually people will just start coming around. They'll hit their stride at some point. I think a reboot would kill them. I don't think they should do that. Those numbers you gave are interesting, but I also think that Suicide Squad is doing a lot better with the fans, so I don't think it's as horrifically bad as people are making it out to be. Because what's the fan number on Suicide Squad?
I don't have that in front of me, but okay. I know that Suicide Squad is doing better among fans than among critics by quite a significant margin.
So yeah, I think that's where they're going to lay their hat. I don't think it's the ender that a lot of people say it is, because right now it's 71% liked it.
Right. However, the thing about films is, you could say the same thing. Man of Steel, 75% of the fans liked it. Dawn of Justice, 65% of the people liked it. But, the fans are, I don't know. I think people that are going to see these movies are more apt to like the movies as opposed to someone who sees it as part of their job and is to objectively compare this film to other films. And so if I'm not a genre fan of superhero movies, I am not impressed by any of these films, because all three of these films are something of a mess as far as plot and direction. It seems like the universe is just kind of being cobbled together haphazardly. In stark contrast to the MCU, where everything just fits together so perfectly that, from the when Iron Man ended and Nick Fury walked out, it wasn't like, oh, they just tacked that on. It felt like he should be there. And then when he shows up in movie after movie, and then Tony Stark shows up in Incredible Hulk, and we have all these little things setting up for Avengers where you knew from day one that Avengers was the ultimate goal. Man of Steel, you know, that had nothing to do with anything else except that Metropolis was destroyed, which created Batman's motivation. But, I mean, I'm sorry. If Gotham City is literally, a stone's throw away from Metropolis, Batman should have been involved in the events of Man of Steel. You know, if Wonder Woman was around, are you seriously telling me that she's going to stop everything she's doing to help fight Doomsday, but she wasn't going to stop with an alien weapon that was trying to destroy the planet? She wasn't going to show up and help for that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. You know?
Well, the difference between Marvel and DC is very, very simple. Marvel had a plan. They had a blueprint for what they wanted to do.
Drinking from my official DC cup here, by the way.
Yeah, to build, for their first plateau that they were going to build towards was the Avengers. The next one was Age of Ultron, and the third one is Infinity War. And DC, instead of doing what Marvel did, like James was saying, like introduce each character in a film. So by the time you get to the Justice League, you're like, okay, we know and love these characters now. I can't wait to see them interact. We haven't had any of that.
Right. Instead, we're told that they've had interactions.
Yeah, everything is cinematic shorthand. I mean, I'm never, ever, ever going to let go of that idiotic, thumbnail file thing from Batman versus Superman. I mean, there's nothing worse than that stupid brief Aquaman thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so dumb.
What are you talking about specifically?
Here it is. Here's what he does in the movie. That's it. That's the whole buildup. That's all you get. It's so dumb, and it doesn't establish anything. DC, to me, their other big problem is they really, really need to get away from the overly CG'd world, because it's something that's been a Zack Snyder hallmark, which is everything has this bizarre gloss to it, and it doesn't look real. And the reason why is because it's not real. And I have to say, at least from what I've seen of the Wonder Woman trailer, that looks like a step in the right direction. It doesn't look as overly artificial.
Well, even the Justice League trailer doesn't look artificial. It just looks boring. It
looks boring, yeah. But
did Lex Luthor come up with all their symbols, by the way?
Yeah, yes, apparently. Some employee at LexCorp,
yeah.
So, it'd be cool.
Either
there's a lightning bolt in the circle.
Either that, or he is really big on information to the point that he makes their symbols look really nice for the thumbnails when you're clicking on them.
Right.
But Mike, do you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that artificial gloss? I use as an example like 300.
Well, and
the entire thing was done on a green stage.
Green, yeah. Well, 300 I think takes it to an extreme, and it has to do with the blooming lighting effects that you do when you're creating a CG environment.
Yeah,
and there is a lot of that in the Zack Snyder DC universe, although it's more grounded than, say, 300 or Watchmen, for sure.
The reason I ask is because I've watched all the behind-the-scenes stuff on the original Avengers Blu-ray, and a lot of the stuff in there was CG'd, like when they're on the ground and they're like when, say, Cap,
you see they're standing in front of giant green screens in almost every shot.
Yeah, like where Cap, projects the Black Widow up in the air with his shield and everything. That's all done on green screen. But when you see it, it looks real. It looks like they're really outside in New York City. When you watch the Zack Snyder films, it all looks so
The world is
just
more stylized.
artificial and glossy and phony. It doesn't look real at all, and I'm really tired of that. That's something that's come in the last 10 years or so. Has really come to be something that's very popular. Like even with all the things like Gods of Egypt and stuff like that, it's all just so artificial.
Well,
And
but,
I want my heroes to look like they really exist in a real world, and that just doesn't do it. Whereas the Avengers does.
That is a funny difference between the Marvel and DC universes, because with Marvel, they are going for a more lighthearted approach, and with DC, obviously, they want the dark and gritty kind of feel, and the lighthearted approach creates the ability to use quote unquote the real world. Like when we see the Battle of Sokovia in Age of Ultron, they don't need to make it look dark and gritty. They can use real lighting effects and stuff to make it look like a nice bright day. And as such, it feels more real than when we see Gotham City, which is so artificially dark that and everything is just, basically everything is perfectly arranged to the point where it's just this exaggerated reality.
Well, if you want to talk about overly dark, Suicide Squad, that movie looks like it was lit with like flashlights or something.
Well, and the thing is that, Suicide Squad, I think, and I honestly think is probably, I don't know, it had its moments that I really liked. I mean, we talked about it in detail last Friday. Don't forget to check out the review, folks, if you want to see what me and Tim thought about Suicide Squad. But the Suicide Squad, I don't know. I'm torn on that one because what Suicide Squad seemed like to me is what could have been the culmination of about a half a dozen awesome movies that were never made.
Yeah.
Because I want to see the Joker and Harley Quinn become the king and queen of Gotham and then taken down by Batman.
Instead of that shorthand they did.
Right. I want to see Killer Croc, going toe-to-toe with Batman and then finally abandoning Gotham. I want to see, I don't want to see Deadshot because I kind of hated him. But the point is they just tell us that, oh yeah, these characters had, these interactions with these superheroes. How about give us a Flash movie where we actually have Captain Boomerang, as stupid as he was. You could even have, like, if you had a Flash movie, and let's say it was, whatever the story of the Flash, say he's going against Reverse Flash or something, but then at one point in the film you have a little 30-second thing where Captain Boomerang is like, okay boys, we're gonna steal these diamonds, and then have Flash just show up and grab and throw him in jail. So at least when you put him in Suicide Squad, you can say, oh, that's that idiot.
Oh, by the way, that impression of Boomerang was more understandable than he was in the film.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, go on, right, lines, go down, cool, right?
I liked his pink thing, whatever that was, the unicorn. Was that in the books?
The pink uniform.
No, that Captain Boomerang is absolutely nothing like the comic book character.
Oh, okay. Because I thought it'd been funny if he had a pink unicorn.
Captain Boomerang in the comics is a goofy-looking character.
Right. I would say of all the characters we saw in Suicide Squad, there were only 3 characters that they even tried, and one they nailed. The 3 they tried were Joker, Harley, and Amanda Waller. The one they nailed was Amanda Waller.
Well, I think we talked about this when we talked about the movie. Have you seen what they've done to Amanda Waller in the comics now?
No, she
looks like Vivica A. Fox.
Oh, of course she does.
She's super sexy and in shape and everything. Whereas for like the longest time, she's been like an obese black woman, which I thought was a more interesting take on a character instead of constantly having every single character, female-wise at least, being like big boobs, tiny waist. In reality, there's people of different shapes and sizes. And I always thought that was interesting. Have a character that was overweight. You don't have a lot of those in comics. You just have them at the comic stores buying them.
Hey, stop talking about me.
Don't.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm really torn about what can they, what I think what Warner Brothers and DC need to do is really look at what makes the MCU really work is like you said, Tim, when we started this, is that they had a plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
And okay, they've dropped a few hints about things like Dark Side. All right, fine. Make that your Avengers moment. You know, in all honesty, I would scrap this Justice League movie that they've got in production right now. Go with the Wonder Woman movie. Go with the solo Batman film. Go with the solo Flash film. You know, even do a Suicide Squad 2 before you get around to a Justice League movie, and you make the Justice League movie the arrival of Darkseid. And and you got to do Man of Steel too, so we can get the rebirth of Superman and all that. Get all that out of the way. You know, Batman v Superman should have been 3 movies in and of itself. You know, but they cram too. They are just in such a rush that they got to get all their good stories in there right at the beginning. Stupid.
I gotta say, in the chat we have someone doing the Flash, like Flash Gordon, you know, because I gotta tell you, I was in 6th grade is when we moved to Santa Rosa, and I had a lunchbox that was a Justice League lunchbox, and it had the Flash on it, and this kid comes up to me at lunch, and he's like, "Well, is that like Flash Gordon?" And so, of course, me being the complete idiot I am, I think, well, you know, actually, this Barry Allen, the Flash of Earth 1, as opposed to the Flash of Earth 2, Jake Garrick, and it was all I saw was this coming at me.
Yep.
Yeah, I got beat up a lot.
What year was that?
Oh,
it was before you were born, James.
Oh, well, I mean, you guys graduated before I was born, actually.
6th grade would have been what, 81? I think. I'm trying to think of because like
you were applying for college when I was born.
It'd be about 80, 81 now.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm glad that I can do this to you. This makes me feel proud of myself.
I
think they'll just keep plugging along, and eventually people will be like, "Oh my God,
well,
why haven't we had this all my life?"
Right. I do think. I mean. I think they should. This Justice League movie looks like it's going to be a train wreck. To be honest with you, I think that's why all they're showing you is Batman talking to people. Because
like Tony Stark.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that even though Bruce Wayne is by far the most interesting character we've gotten in the DCU so far, and I did like his little interaction with Amanda Waller at the end of Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to see. Suicide Squad and the Justice League go head to head. I think that could be interesting.
Sure.
But the Suicide Squad itself needs to be. You need to get a couple of films in. You need to amp up what their abilities are, because right now their anti-meta-human team, you know, doesn't have very many meta-humans on it. You know, I mean, imagine the Suicide Squad as they are right now going up against like Superman.
Well, I saw a great thing.
Superman will be
online
destroyed.
Yesterday, and
what
it was,
are you talking about?
you know, they used the line from the movie. It's like, imagine what would have happened if Superman had torn the roof off the White House and kidnapped the president.
They show the clip from like Superman 2.
No, there's just they're just like the line of dialogue and like, you know, what we need is a team. Well, so what do you have in mind? Well, first we have a really psychotic girl with a baseball bat. Get out of my office. It's so funny. It's like there's only like I don't know if you can consider Croc a metahuman, you know, but I mean it's like it's just a bunch of like, you know, Deadshot's just a good marksman,
right?
You know, and then you got Boomerang and Slipknot who does nothing, and
well, Deadshot Deadshot in the games at least had some good abilities. He was like the anti-Batman in a lot of ways. I think he could have took on metahumans if he prepared enough.
But Deadshot is not the problem with Suicide Squad as a concept, at least in the films, is that Amanda Waller's whole thing is that we need an anti-metahuman team, a team of metahumans to take down metahumans in case we have, you know, like they use the example, what if another Superman shows up, only this one is bad? This team could not even. I mean, if General Zod had come back from the grave and this team was sent to stop him, General Zod would then promptly rule the world.
Oh, he would have killed all of them in seconds.
Right. I mean, because the only, as far as the team at the end of the film, the only metas on the team is arguably Killer Croc, who has maybe the strength level of a Captain America, which means that General Zod could squeeze him like a grape and he'd be dead. And El Diablo, who can shoot flame. Nothing's, and
Well, he turns
Kryptonian
into.
could easily withstand that.
He turns into
if they were
Satan.
somehow able to have Enchantress be on the team like they wanted, she might be able to do something.
Right. But the problem, but other than that, it's just a group of psychos with ordinary weapons.
Well, someone brought this up, and the interesting thing to me too about Suicide Squad itself, at least, is that they acted almost exactly like a superhero team would have as well. Like they literally, the bad guys, weren't bad guys.
They decided, well, we've got to go save the world now. When one of my favorite moments of the film of Suicide Squad is when Flag, after they're like getting ready to fail and they figured, okay, well, we're screwed, and they go in to have a drink together before they take on the bad guys. And the only reason these guys are doing it is because they have explosives implanted in their heads, and they'll be killed if they don't obey. And Flag goes, okay, you guys can leave, and two of them just immediately get up and leave. That should have been the end of their part in the film. That would have been more believable.
If it was truer to the comics, yeah. I mean, the problem they had is like not enough of the villains in Suicide Squad. They're not bad enough.
Right.
Well, the other thing that bugs me the more I think about it is, how they deactivated Harley Quinn at the end of the movie.
Joker did.
Yeah, at the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, she was like, "Well, you got to go back, or I'll blow your head off." Harley, all right, well, good luck hitting that button.
But remember, Harley Quinn was like, "Okay, I'll go along with you. What the hell?" Because her pudding was dead, as far as she knew. Yeah. So she figured she'll just help out now. She's got nothing else.
Right, but I mean, she had no reason to go back into to jail. They can't keep her. I mean, they can't blow her head off.
You see, Harley is psychotically attached to Joker to the point where, if Joker were dead, I would totally see Harley just turning herself over because she'd have nothing to do.
By the way, I heard in deleted scenes, he was actually much more abusive to her too.
Which would have been better.
Like, for instance, which
is closer to the comics.
When she fell off of the copter, that had actually been cut in a way to make it seem like she fell off, but he apparently hit her in one of the scenes and knocked her off of the thing. Interestingly enough.
Sure.
Well, but still, you see, one of the key flaws with the Joker of this interpretation of Joker is the fact that he cares about Harley. He shouldn't. He should basically take a dump on her, and
it's
the quintessential abusive relationship.
Right.
Really.
I think they tried to get Harley right as far as that's concerned. Because they did have her obsession with Joker, and I was fine with that. And I could have seen some kind of thing where maybe she could convince Joker to rescue her because she figured there was something there that would benefit him.
Or just chaos. Save her to kill her. I can see him doing that.
Since we're talking about Harley, I think I brought this up when we did the review of it, but it drives me nuts that her accent comes and goes.
Yeah.
There's that one scene I saw on TV the other day where she's meeting Katana, and she's like, "Harley Quinn, pleased to meet ya." And
that
she's
sounded like Harley.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, "What's that? The stench of death?" Which, by the way, that line landed with a fucking thud.
Yeah.
And then later on, she's just talking like this, and you're like, "Well, wait a minute, where'd the Brooklynese go?"
No, I thought
because she's always supposed to talk like that.
Oh, I just thought that was when she was being particularly annoying. I thought that was done on purpose.
No, that is her natural. I mean, she's from Brooklyn.
She always says, "What's up, Mr. J?"
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It's just in the movie, her accent's there when they want it to have an impact, and when they don't, she's just like normal. I don't know, like California accent or something, whatever.
which doesn't make sense. She would have been a more. They could have done a lot. They did some things right. They dropped the ball on a lot of other things, and unfortunately, this is the movie moving forward now into the DCU. But now, like Tim said, what looks good right now, genuinely looks good, is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman looks like it's going to be a completely kick-ass film. The problem is that Wonder Woman also takes place during World War One.
We need to. It's kind of late here, and I remembered it, but I think we need to have a segment maybe next time talking about how people are pissed off because she served as a part of the Israeli army. That's becoming a thing now. There's even people trying.
Huh?
Yeah.
Because Gal Gadot was in the Israeli army.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
cares?
Feminists are pissed off, saying that she's a Zionist and that it's a
She's
white
Israeli.
Oh
and
my
that it's
God.
a white woman
Okay,
once
if
again.
anybody out there that's a freaking anti-military, whatever, crazy liberal, like Tim. However, but Tim understands this. That's the difference between him and you. Okay, let me explain something to you. If you are an Israeli citizen, you must serve in the army. It is the law.
Yeah.
Period.
But she's also so white, apparently, which is a big deal.
Huh?
Yeah, I'll find it. We can talk about
God.
it next segment. There's this entire thing. They're trying to get Marvel to fire
DC.
whoever.
Gal Gadot, in my opinion, I was one of the naysayers about her being cast as Wonder Woman, and I loved her in the part, even though I still think she's physically too small. She is the strongest piece of the DCU right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think Affleck's good.
Oh yeah, Affleck, and the thing is, that's what's got me looking forward to stuff. What I saw in Suicide Squad, I could take or leave. With Man of Steel, while there were some things I liked about it, they got to work on getting the character of Superman right. I'm hoping that when Superman comes back from death, that all of a sudden he has a much more optimistic air about him. I
think we get that impression from the Justice League trailer.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with him. But that's going to wrap it up for this discussion, because otherwise we're going to be talking all night arguing about this. And real quick, we got a couple of videos to talk about. Tim.
Yes.
My bitter bastard friend.
Yes.
What is your personal pick of your personal video collection this week?
Well, this is actually a complete series box set, and I've been waiting a long time for it because I absolutely love it. It's one of the those bizarre hybrids that thankfully happened a long time ago, and we preserved them and whatever. But it's the full Wild Wild West box set, all 4 seasons. It's so much fun, and really, if all you know about Wild Wild West it is the terrible Will Smith movie, for the love of God, please watch this as a palate cleanser to show you what the real thing is, because that movie's god awful.
The one thing I really remembered from back when it was first on was those animated segues. I used to love the animated segues.
The funny thing with those animated segues is that they were designed after the spaghetti western titles for like Fistful of Dollars. So it was kind of a real hybrid, because it's, the spaghetti westerns are influenced by American westerns, and this is influenced by something that was influenced by western. But yeah, it's basically, for those of you who don't know, it's basically like James Bond in the 1880s.
Dun, 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 dun. Yep. Well, I'm going to say yes. I have not seen that show since it was originally on. It would be a lot of fun to rewatch that series. I might have to find that on eBay or something.
Amazon.
Yeah, but eBay might be cheaper. That's all.
Cheap bastard.
That's right. So for my pick, I also have what you could loosely call a box set, because it's in a standard size, Blu-ray case, but it's got 3 discs in it, so it's kind of a box set. And that is the original superhero trilogy that actually kind of worked: Blade, Blade 2, and Blade Trinity. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen, first of all, this is, don't let people say X-Men started the superhero, the modern superhero genre. Because no, Blade did. And Blade was the first time we really saw a genuine attempt to take the source material seriously and adapt it to the real world, as opposed to like what we'd seen in prior attempts with Batman. They made Tim Burton just went hog wild creating this surrealistic world because they figured Batman couldn't work in the quote unquote real world. Blade was really the first time where they said, let's take one of these characters and drop them in the real world and see what happens. And it really does work. Blade and Blade 2, very, very good. Blade 3 is watchable. It's not horrid, despite what some people may say.
Oh, I loathe it.
But if you haven't seen them, this is what I love about this, is that I picked this up at Walmart like a couple of weeks ago for like, $6, and it's three films that aren't bad, and so check it out. Wesley Snipes, despite the fact that he doesn't look nearly as young and muscular as he did in these films, I could still see him playing Blade after.
Oh, he's been petitioning to do it.
Yeah, I would love to see this Blade show up in the MCU. Because he would fit right in with the Netflix shows, in my opinion. I would love to have him show up as a cameo in Daredevil season 3 or something, and just like, what the hell is that? That would be awesome.
Well, yeah, that'd be awesome to see him interacting with Daredevil and Punisher.
Yeah, I mean, well, because imagine, Punisher's reaction to that. I mean, especially now that they finally got Punisher right. How would Punisher react to a character that he couldn't really kill? Or if like Punisher was trying to take down a vampire and just loading him up with bullets, and the vampire was recovering. By the way, Ghost Rider apparently is going to be on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season.
Yes, but it's not Johnny Blaze. It's
a
later one. He's in a car. Yeah, it's a car instead of a motorcycle. It's just like, okay.
We'll see what happens with that. But that will be an official MCU Ghost Rider then.
Yep.
But we have not seen an MCU Blade yet, which I would like to see. I think that the funny thing is, since I know you're the big DC fanboy, but bottom line is Marvel makes awesome movies, DC doesn't, at least so far. Which is too bad, because DC's got some of the most iconic characters in all of history, and yet they can't get it right. Except for Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is freaking awesome as Batman.
And did you ever think that we would be saying that?
Yeah.
Remember how everybody was pissed when he was announced as Batman, and now we're like, yeah, he's pretty good.
Well, you know what I kind of like?
Everything else sucks. Except for him.
Did you see the honest trailer of Batman v Superman?
No.
Oh. They have the opening line is so perfect because it so perfectly describes it, where it says, "Witness a completely awesome Batman movie buried inside of a completely terrible Superman movie."
Yeah.
That's kind of what we got. However, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Untitled Show About Nerdy Stuff. Thank you all for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Tell your friends, subscribe. Laugh with us, cry with us, get us some more subscribers, because we're desperate. Please. And for the love of God, give us a title, because we're freaking on a YouTube channel called Untitled Show.